because even in sight, the grains are not there for us to even see to buy. And then the prices for the ones we see are going high by the day.
Yes, if we have, like yesterday, I was talking to some of your sister station downstairs. I was talking to them on issue concerning oil and gas, and then I said, if you are bringing the issue of people, security agencies arresting those that are doing illegal oil bunkering, and that's affected the production and supplies and all of that in Nigeria. The GMD of NNPC has said that even 1 liter of PMS we consume here is not even being produced here in this country.
Yeah.
But that we do, you know, we now swap crude oil, get what we have to get, and come back here. And as they are bringing it, they are paying more tax.
Of course.
And then those that are buying to retail will also pay more. And those that are buying to retail in the filling station will add their own profit and all of that. And the consumers will not bear the brunt and all of that. So what are we talking about? And at the end of my comment, I said, look, if it is possible for the oil company that are IOCs that are going out of the country because of a conflict, people are beginning to have an understanding of what issues are all about. You've taken my land, you have an MOU, you don't implement them to the fullest. You understand? You brought some certain things and you're deceiving us. If they could bring back all the lands, and then all of us will go back to farm better, so that we don't keep asking government, what do you have for us? But that is not going to be possible. I'm from a community, a clan, a local government where oil, if there is no community, a village that don't have oil wells, like Christmas tree, from Onega, or by no local government of River State. So they have taken all the vast land. When we were growing up, we went to school, following my mother to the farm. Whenever we farm, we come back. My mother would sell gari and sell cassava, fufu, as the case may be, and then give me money to go and pay 1 or 2 things in the school. Today, you no longer see those things. I go to fishing as a person. I fish and sell and come back and sell and then buy some notebooks, 60 leaves and all of that. You see? But those things are no longer there because this government, not even Nigerian government and governments all over time have taken over the land. The land belongs to them. Now, if you go to my place, I discover that even some of the, what you're talking about, some of the lands have been taken by the oil company and they are owned by the government in conjunction with the IOCs. You no longer go to that place now. Firewood, ordinary firewood, for you to get a firewood in my place now, it's very hard. If you go to a place like Ubogu and Obagi, there is no land any longer for you to farm. It's only when you come to a place like, Ire myself, we're exiting from it. So, when you ask a question, whether everybody should go back to farm, to where? Which farm? Development, urbanization has taken over some of those land that you think we should go and share and farm and then bring food and then eat and sell. Because if you look at it very well, the rural agriculture is actually one of the major contributors to the urban sector, the food stocks and all of that, apart from what we are looking at from the center. You understand? But the rural agriculture, the peasant farmers are no longer having spaces to farm. And even if they farm, the gas flaring and oil exploration has made the land to be impotent. It does no longer produce. Are you getting it? So where are we going to go back to go and say we should go and farm? And then population over time, the implosion in population has increased. And the land is no longer there. But what we are supposed to use to grow people, because when the oil company came in, they were giving certain palliatives like training people and all. They never knew that people are also getting more insight, more foresight about what they are doing against us. And then those people now are coming back now answering DOC, which is domestic oil company. Our brothers and friends and sisters who now understood what is being done to us. That is where it is. So the conflict about food crisis, the conflict about inflation, the government itself is irresponsible to understand that they are coming into this situation to govern people. It's not all about themselves. It's all about the people. Because you will not be a leader without somebody following you. No. And they have failed in that respect. And that's what we are having this as a problem. So Ukraine is predicting to us, those that are in war, we that just ordinarily have some court groups within our community, it's now beginning to listen to somebody who have a full-blown war that cannot even go to church, that cannot even go around their communities. You heard about the bombing at a kind of a marketing, a shopping center, a shopping mall the other day. That for now has, even though we have it in churches in River State in Nigeria this time, like the one we have at Owo, it is not everywhere in Nigeria. So how come Nigerian government have not been able to fix these things? Because we even understand our problem to that extent where they will keep telling you we are handling it, we are investigating, upon collection of investigations and everything is going on. Nigeria have not been able to find solution to our problems.
this is very heavy. This is absolutely very heavy. So invariably, we really don't have much to do. The people out there in the rural communities don't have much to do because we are looking all up to the government, and the government seems to be handicapped in this time.
Everybody is in a precarious situation. Government is in a precarious situation. We are in a precarious situation. Who do we run to? Who will pay the cats? Even if you say you want to protect, to who? You understand? The government seems to be inanimate. They don't exist. Because things that are happening are the things that are enshrined in the social contract. You're coming in to protect lives and property. Make life better for the people. That was the reason why all of us came together to say, okay, Moku give you our life. Take it. Handle it for us. Give us what belongs to us. Take what belongs to you. But this one, they are not even handling even themselves, not to talk about handling the people. It's a problem. They cannot do anything. They are making policy. They are bringing different kind of institutions, and they are making nothing is happening anywhere.
But
every day it gets worse. Every day, it's not that you wake up in Nigerian government in Nigeria that you don't hear one thing that will make your blood pressure to go to 240 or 5,000.
It's very, very appalling. Now, but there should be some way out of this food crisis in the country.
What should be the solution?
That's what I'm trying to find out.
Well, let's see. What will be the solution is that, see, government is in charge of some of the things we are doing. Like, I'm a farmer, right? I'm a farmer. I've said it here over and over. I'm a farmer. I do fish. Even before I started doing it outside from my village. You understand? I used to do one or two things. Nobody has given me loan to that extent. This is also a responsibility that the government is supposed to aid. Like, in my own farm, even if I have 10 people working, let me say from 5 to 10 people working for me, I should be paying them their remunerations. And when you pay them this remuneration whatsoever, how much can that afford in the market? Because inflation is high. Just last week, Wednesday till now, dollar has increased from black market, I think it's 650 to 690.
But the government had
you understand?
The trader money project.
Those ones are old deal. It never happened. I know how many of these, when you're talking about traders money and all that, me as a person, I know how many times I've filled this form. Me as a person, I'm talking to you here, and I'm a traditional person. I can tell you, I can even swear, any Juju in my community, I know how many times I've filled the form. Nobody has given me 10 kobo.
Wow.
So if they have given to anybody, I wouldn't know. But how much is this trader money? 5,000, 10,000. My coming from where I'm coming from to this place now, even if I drive my own car, how much am I going to buy for fuel? Even if I pay transportation from where I'm coming from to nearer to this place now, how much is transportation? Where you're supposed to pay 5 naira, you're paying 200. Just from Rumokoro to Choba is 200 naira. Are you getting me? If you go to market and say, I want to buy this cap that is on my head now, you won't buy this cap less than 5,000. This is something you're supposed to buy like 250 naira at the end of the day. Okay. You want to sew a new clothes. You go to a textile person and all of maybe you touch a particular cloth, they tell you the price. You tell them, man, please, let me go and see my uncle, I'm coming back. He wouldn't do it any longer. This is what the government, the kind of psychological trauma the government has fixed us into. And then Ukraine, that is fighting war, is coming here to tell me that and predicting my own economy.
Because we depend on
them. You understand? Because we depend on them. Yeah. Not even because of now they are fighting war. Over time, we have been depending on these people. It's this thing that the government does not know. Just within this week now, almost all the governors of the Federation of Nigeria, including Buhari, travel abroad. Don't they see the economic policy of other people? If you don't even have it, consult so that they will teach you what to do. It is because people don't have the will to do these things. That is the reason why you see us every day we talk, we keep saying the same thing, every day the same thing, the same shouting, the same crying, the same killing, the same dying.
Oh, I just hope this is going to be an eye-opener to Nigerians come 2023. So we vote who can actually work in our own interest. Okay, let's just move away from that issue and look at that and alleged hypnotism. Police rescue 77 persons found in underground cell of Ondo Church. The Ondo State Police Command said a total of 77 people, 23 kids and 54 others, including teenagers and adults, male and females, were found locked in an underground cell of a church located at Valentino area of Ondo Town in Ondo State. The victims were alleged to have been kidnapped and kept in the underground apartments of the church for over 6 months before they were rescued. The church's pastor and some other members are currently in the custody of the command, while the police had begun investigation into the matter. One of the parents of the rescued victims, Mr. Michael Oloriyomi, said, "I attended the church before, and I left because of the wrong teachings the pastor gave the members. The pastor teach the members on the need to divorce. Husbands are to divorce their wives if they want to go to heaven. They turned the children against their parents by teaching them what is not in the Bible. When I left the church, my daughter refused to follow me. I made the mistake of leaving her behind. Before I knew what was going on, my daughter, who was in 300 level in the university at the time, dropped out and camped in the church waiting for the second coming of Jesus Christ. Now, it is because the pastor said that there was nothing again in the word and rapture would come in September this year. The state police spokesperson, Mrs. Fumilayo Dunlami, said preliminary investigation is ongoing and further information will be communicated to the public. We urge the good people of Osun State to be calm as the State Criminal Investigation and Intelligence Department have taken over the case. One of the victims, Olusunkami Olafisoye, who claimed to be a graduate from the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, Osun State, said, "My parents do not attend the church. When we left our former church, they usually stayed at home, and before then, I was not comfortable with the Bible teaching of their church. I later decided to join this church because my parents were leading me away from God, and I want to make heaven. I love the way the church followed Jesus and the way they hold on to Christ. I disowned my parents because they are leading me away from Jesus, and I find the way to heaven from this church. I cannot say because my parents are leading me away from God, I should obey them." Now, I'm concerned about this issue, having 77 people docked in an underground building, apartment of a church for over 6 months. I mean, could it be that, okay, they allege that the pastor had hypnotized them, and from the testimony of one of the victims, she was there because of what the pastor had taught them on waiting for the second coming of Christ. What would you make of this? Because we have a whole lot of people teaching some doctrines that are absolutely strange, just like this one. It's unheard that a pastor would ask people to wait for the coming in September.
That is a very big problem. Let me know. I will be very careful in attending to this particular topic because as well I will speak, I will be speaking about atheism and stoicism, which actually turned to be like God never existed, and then from Friedrich Nietzsche that Christ died and then he died, and the church is the tomb of God, where people go. So that is not the issue, because if you bring different people, they will tell you their verse on whatever it is. The argument will not end here today. But let me also be kind in attending to it by saying that, you see, we have employed our personal psychology to what Jesus Christ has come to teach. If you read the Bible very well, I am not longer more like a student of it. I told you I'm a traditional person, but that does not mean I don't believe in what is true and what is supposed to be to make peace and provide love in the society, as far as the Bible is in sacrosanct to that extent. Now, but what I want to look at is that I have also checked the persons that handles this particular material, which is the Bible, within our society. There are those who are handling it, not because they are handling because of what the Bible has said. They are handling because of their own commercial interests and profits. Whatever they make out of it, I have not been part of it, but I don't know. But I believe that anybody who is indulged in this, the laws has a provisions that will handle a situation like this. One word to this extent is that this is human trafficking, kidnapping, and the laws has their provisions on how to handle people like this. And then you could see this kind of situation emanating or springing up in a society, or phenomenon springing up in a society like this, because our laws are weak. Ineptitude of the security agencies. The judicial system is nowhere to be found. We have a law that has so much teeth, sharp but cannot bite. If not, this is not the first time we are hearing about pastors even burying human beings in their altars, killing a woman, sleeping with this and doing all of that. So this is one case that is so many. You understand? But it is one and only with the fact that the government itself, just like they have ineptitude in providing succor economically for the people, they also have ineptitude to providing lives and property as they have shown in their oath of office. It's a problem. So how could you now have 77 children? Children. These are people who could not even decide for themselves. You understand? So our law, if the law is the way it's supposed to be, before you even take anybody to court, we begin to frown on this particular situation because these children does not have the capacity to negotiate for whatsoever. They don't even have an understanding of what it is. So it is very easy for you to persuade a child using this particular negative psychological persuasion to swindle them into this. What are we talking about? These children were deceived, coerced into what they don't know by a man who is called a pastor. But you raised a question earlier that how could the parents, you left the church and you left your child behind for a church you believe that this church is no longer good, and you left them there. That is where the problem is. So we have also failed as a family, as a parent, as a guardian. We have failed. So whatever crept in after the failure, there is no way. This is the result of the situation where we find ourselves, where you have refused to take charge. You have refused to take responsibility of what you have as a people. We are very religious in this country. You understand? Very, very religious. But the religiousness that we are is actually that we understood what the Bible or the Quran is teaching. Or that we feel that, let it not be that hypocrisy. Let me know because I don't go to church. I came in here, you are asking me if I went to church. I told you I don't go to church. And I will never go to church. But not that if I see a pastor, I will not, or if I'm, like yesterday I went to Ndone for a friend's traditional wedding. While I entered into a vehicle at Omok Park, a child of about 7 to 10 years came with Bible. It's the same, this same situation. Came and excused me that he want to talk to me. I told him, what do you know that you want to talk to me about? So somebody could even say, he has, which anointing? From where? No, you're saying the girl has an anointing, the boy has an, which anointing? At that age.
Well,
that God could even use anything. That is another argument, that God could even use anything to talk to anybody. I don't believe it. See, that is the reason why I cherish this group of people, Roman Catholics, and the Methodist people. You understand? Because one thing I discovered with them, after my argument with them over time, I discovered that these guys, before you become a priest, you will be taught the basic things about philosophy and sociology. That is, you understand the human character from the level of education. Not that you have an emotional feeling and then you pray that somebody, you just have an impulse and you say you want to come and talk to communists. It will not work. You need to convince me.
All right. All right, thank you very much. We'll just go on a short break right now and we'll be right back.
In our time on ATN Icons. Here, we present you legends celebrated for their heroism in different fields and serve as role models today. ATN Icons, showing every Sunday 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Atlantic Television Network, StarTimes DTH channel 194, ATN Live on Google App Store, Facebook Atlantic Television Network, YouTube Atlantic Television Network, Instagram Atlantic TV Network, Twitter, Atlantic TV Net. For sponsorship, 0810-634-1777. ATN Icons, celebrating the giants of our time.
The people, the candidates, the party, the campaigns. What really makes an election year? Enough of the rhetorics. It's time for issue-based politics. 2023 elections. Who are the candidates? What do you know about them? Take a seat, relax, and join us for the 2023 elections on Atlantic Television Network, StarTimes, DTH, Channel 194, or ATN Live on Google Play Store and all our social media platforms. Twitter is at Atlantic TV Net. Facebook and YouTube is at Atlantic Television Network. On Instagram is at Atlantic TV Network. Elections 2023 from Mondays to Fridays at 8 p.m. Election 2023. We the people have a stake.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring honest pop news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing. Honorables, you human trafficker. Honorables, you are a human trafficker.
They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
on Atlantic Television Network. And before we went to that break, we're talking about some national issues with our guest, comrade Susie Ikiago. So I thank you once again for being here. All right, let's just move on to the next issue. And the Nigerian Correctional Service Controller General laments increasing number of inmates beyond facilities carrying capacity. The Controller General of Corrections, CGC, Haliru Nababa, has lamented that the custodial centers of the Nigerian Correctional Services have 16,000 inmates above her carrying capacity, a situation that has given rise to aggression among the inmates and overstretched the system. Currently, the custodial centers of the Nigerian Correctional Service have a combined carrying capacity of 58,278 inmates in the country. Nababa, while speaking at the second Controller General of Corrections retreat held in Sokoto, stated that the retreat aimed to draw and outline a 5-year direction for the service in line with the ministerial retreat held in Ilorin. He added that the NCOS maintains 244 facilities, including 20 farm centers, 10 cottage industries, 1 open land camp and 4 training institutions across the country. He lamented that the current capacity of Nigerian custodial centers stand at 58,278 as against the population of over 5,000 inmates, saying that in recent times, the Nigerian custodial centers have experienced incessant attacks which were extremely organized and executed. Now, I have a worry here because I think earlier this week, the Governor Aregbesola said that the Nigerian prisons, the custodial centers, should have a way where they will have to let go of some, especially those awaiting trials, that they were too much. And then he suggested that the trial period shouldn't exceed 12 months because we have people who are in trial for years and nothing comes. In fact, I went to a prison sometime in Owerri, and we realized that there were people who have been there for over 4 years and they've not been tried. And so you keep having more people adding up to the ones already there, and then the capacity of the facility cannot contain them anymore. What do you make of this, sir?
Well, the clamor for prison decongestion in Nigeria has been an old clarion call. You are talking about mentioning 12 months for dispensation of justice and all of that. There are those who are even saying within 3 weeks. There are those who are even saying within 2 weeks. You understand? It is a problem which is actually anchored in what I will still say ineptitude of the system. Don't we even understand that these are things that people have responsibility to do, but at the end of the day, they are not doing them. So it is as if that somebody, or I want to draw my conclusion by saying that somebody is not doing his or her own job to this extent. Why would you have a correctional center that would contain only 400 persons? You now have 3,000 persons inside. Number of persons that are dying daily. Yeah. Some of these people, it's not as if their case is as bad as it's supposed to be. But just because people don't want to do their job, you now have a collective monologue. Every day we have people being sent into this same correctional center that we are having multitude of persons. Yeah. So what are we doing? Just of recent, I think some human rights CLOs came up and said, look, there are cases that are not supposed to be sent to customary court. These cases are meant for the high court. Why don't you take them to the high court? Why should police take somebody who you just see me on the street as I'm going from here now? You see me on the street and you stop and search and you, bam, you handcuff me, you take me to your cell. The next morning, you take me to customary court. From customary court, you take me to the correctional center. And by the time you take me to correctional center, it is either you abandon me there or my case will continue. There was a day somebody called me from one of the correctional center. I do in my NGO what we do as Network for Crime, Violent Prevention and Peace Initiative. What we do is sometimes, like you said, we visit the prison to take their consent. What is your case? Why are you here? If you see the kind of story that some of them will tell you, you will begin to cry. You do not even have the money as a social organization to file suit, to fight for them. You don't have the money. So you just hear their testimony and you come back home. Even if you meet some government agencies or some lawyers that want to do things by pro bono, somebody want to do something by pro bono, they will begin to ask you your own interest in that particular. So you're bringing this case here and you are a body, you understand, that is handling issues. You are not a lawyer, but you're bringing it here now. I'm doing things on pro bono. We've had your name as a human rights activist, human rights lawyer. You understand? They will still ask you, how far?
Of course.
You understand? And you don't have it. Are you getting it? So it's a problem in itself. I remember there is a guy who was released from prison about, I think it was last 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago. I was just somewhere. I think I was leaving this place when that call came in. I heard from the guy. Where are you? Say that day. You've been in prison for the past 6 months. What did you commit? The story for me, I don't really see how to marry it together because I have to be skeptical even when such people are talking to you. But somebody that I know, we used to practice together as we practice taekwondo and all of that. I used to train them. But whatever crime he must have committed, that I do not even know. But you know that they have spent 300,000 to release that guy from bail. Yeah. And then when the person is back to his senses, you release him to the society. Are you getting me? I think it was last 2 years that some people from Correctional Center in Lagos road jam. Some people have road jam. There is a guy who also graduated from one of the correctional as a lawyer. Are you getting me? So these people are potentials. I also know some young people whom I have met before even they go to prison. If you give them biro to write, and they take a white paper to write for you, these are guys who have not gone to university, from secondary school. If you see their handwriting, you understand? These are people you need to handle. So if you're looking at the whole thing, consider Nigeria as a whole. What is actually the aims and objective of this country as a people? It is from the aims and objective that we will know that it's either this country is for the people or it's against the people. And this is one case so many that you will understand. How can you pay people in a correctional center? The number of persons that are there, you're still bringing more people, as if you don't understand what it is. The implication of that. If we have another court that people could go, Nigerian government will also be soon. They should take them to court for bringing people into where it's supposed. Me that does a fish farming. If you have a pot or a pond where you're supposed to stock about 200 fishes and you stock like 500, you are not going to profit anything. Because the fish will retard. You won't get anything from them. Now you're putting, where you're supposed to buy 200 people, you're putting 300, 4,000 persons. Is it normal?
Now, in this situation right now, who are we going to blame for this? The government, the security operatives, or the court?
It is the judiciary. Because that is where the dispensation of justice is. In some part of our jurisprudence, the realists will tell you that, look, law is what the court says. That is the definition of law. Law is what the court says. So if the court say you are bad, you are bad. If the court say you are good, you are good. It doesn't matter what emotions I'm expressing here. It doesn't matter what morality or what my Bible or Quran said. Law say you are bad, you are bad. That is from the area of jurisprudence in realist point of view. So if you now look at somebody whom was arrested and then you hear the person's case, we should be able to understand that, look, this is what it is. Are we not human beings? Except we are going by the provision by John Ross, a great philosopher, who talks about dispensation of justice by veil of ignorance. You are not seeing whom you are talking to. And the person you are talking to does not also see you. Is it what we are talking about? Is it that the state is so utopian to the extent that we don't understand what is real and what is not real? So people are just trying to, make it look as if they don't, this law is so, though the law has that kind of power, but it is still we that make that law. It is still we that made the law that is dispensing that law in the court. The law does not dispense. It is still human being with emotions and feeling and conscience.
Well, we just hope that something would be done sooner or later, because there are a whole lot of casualties as a result of the congested facilities, the correctional facilities in the country. Okay, let's just move away from that and look at our last issue on fraud. Please rescue man from mob over attempts to defraud POS operator with fake currency. A 45-year-old man, Michael Ozo, has been rescued and arrested by operatives of the Eagle Nets Special Squad for allegedly making a POS transaction with fake Naira notes with the intent to defraud the POS operator. He was rescued from an angry mob in Delta State. The police operatives who were on a routine patrol along Asaba-Onitsha Bridge were reported to have sighted an angry mob attacking a man at Oko New International Market in Asaba. The police team dashed into the scene and rescued the indigene of Abakaliki in Ebonyi State. CP Ari Muhammad Ali of the Delta State Police Command confirmed the incident in a statement signed by the Police Public Relations Officer, DSP Bright Edafe. He said the suspect was arrested and fake Naira notes to the tune of 80,000 Naira was recovered from him. Investigation is ongoing. Now, this issue of fake currency, and especially with respect to this POS, we know that the POS people are all over now, and everyone is looking for shortcuts of avoiding the stress of going to the bank, just how to make it fast. And then you come up with this issue of fake currency. Don't you think this should be some sort of signal to these POS operators?
It's not just now that we're beginning to talk about it on media, television and radio, prints that we've heard about. We have had experience of fake currency. Sometimes you even go, you collect money, you come back. People have also devised a means of, when you give them money, they first put it on a fluorescent. Yeah. I don't know how that premonition where they came there, I wouldn't know. Me, if you give me money, I don't know how to look at it. In as much as the code is there and the pictures, I don't know which one is fake and which one is not fake. It is people that have told me much about it. But this issue is, they are both extremes. I have a particular experience from where I'm coming from now. That morning, I was supposed to go for a workout. As I told you, I train people. And then a neighbor now called and said, Susie, come and open gate for me. I went and opened that gate. Immediately I opened the gate and he went out. As I moved, just 2 steps, I hear a gunshot. Boom, boom! Immediately, I was on shorts without clothes, maybe shirt on my this thing. I was with bare body. And then I went back. I discovered that everybody, the Okada people at that particular junction, everybody has run away. Both the Keke people. What happened? And I saw a girl on the floor. So I ran to that place. Not that the girl was shot directly. But just that, why the girl came out very early to sell for that, she's a POS hand. And then she saw a Lexus 350. You understand? Packed. When you see a Lexus 350 at this point in time, branded new one, what would you be thinking? You wouldn't think that that person could be anything otherwise.
A good customer.
I'm telling you. So it's as if one of them came out. They saw her counting. They also, this period, they are fond of counting money, trying to arrange their money and all of that. So they saw the young girl and then they approached her. Maybe they are regular customers. So while they grabbed the money to collect the money from her, she beat one of them and then the other one used a pump action and then shot on air. After then, one of them even beat her on the eye. If you see the way they did that girl, they never shot her, but the bruises on her body. As I went out, that was when other people started coming out and all of that. So we gripped her and she was on the floor, breathing. I said, did they shoot you? She said, no. She was just breathing. They took whether 50 or 100,000 naira from her.
Actually a call for
this
caution.
one is, I'm not saying because it's not a fiction. This is something that I saw. Now, I'm bringing this matter now to mob action, where the man was apprehended and the mob descended on the man. Yeah. Mob, whether mob or the act by that young man is condemned by our laws. I have also done seminars and workshops on the issue concerning mob actions. I am still going to be doing more now to primary to secondary school and university when they resume school, on the recent mob action that we have recorded within a period of time. Yeah. I have also talked about it on different fora. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that our laws condemn it. Our Criminal Code Act condemn the mob action. Mob action is perceived to be a crowd with irrational kind of sensitivity. They don't know how to do it because we have also seen those who are mobbed innocently. The guy that was mobbed in Lagos, 100 naira, an exchange between one or two people. In Rumokoro, somebody shout about you, thief, 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 thief. The other people that are passing will not even know that you are not a thief. All they know is that they are angry about the country and they will just kill you there.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Well, I think this is a call for caution to all POS operators. Well, thank you very much, sir, for being on the show.
I greet you.
Thank you. And thank you, our viewers, for being out there once again with us. We do hope that you join us tomorrow again for another interesting time. Once again, I am Anita Obari. You can follow us on our social media handles, Twitter at Atlantic TV Net, Facebook and YouTube is at Atlantic Television Network, and Instagram is at Atlantic TV Network. Do remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress.
It's the people making the difference in our time on ATN Icons. Here, who present you legends celebrated for their heroism in different fields and serve as role models today. ATN Icons, showing every Sunday 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Atlantic Television Network, StarTimes DTH channel 194, ATN Live on Google App Store, Facebook Atlantic Television Network, YouTube Atlantic Television Network, Instagram Atlantic TV Network, Twitter Atlantic TV Net. For sponsorship 0810 634 1777. ATN Icons, celebrating the giants of our time.
The people, the candidates, the party, the campaigns. What really makes an election year? Enough of the rhetorics. It's time for issue-based politics. 2023 elections. Who are the candidates? What do you know about them? Take a seat, relax, and join us for the 2023 elections on Atlantic Television Network, StarTimes, DTH, Channel 194, or ATN Live on Google Play Store and all our social media platforms. Twitter is at Atlantic TV Net. Facebook and YouTube is at Atlantic Television Network. On Instagram is at Atlantic TV Network. Elections 2023 from Mondays to Fridays at 8 p.m. Election 2023. We the people have a stake.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring honest pop news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, social economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorables,
You human trafficker.
Honorables,
You are a human.
on them. They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
Showing today on One Cute Niger.
And the reason the matter, no one compares to my papa.
My life be turning on the own. What's that? Turning on the own.
Hello and welcome to this episode of One Cube Ninja, the gospel music show that is designed to meet the needs of the total man. I am Efe Johnson, your host, and I'm taking you on a groovy journey today. First on the playlist is DJ Ernesty with Okesoke singing Fire.
We are a generation who are on fire for God. Fire!
It's okay.
Hey, Holy Ghost. Your fire, fire, you know the quench, Daddy set me on fire. Holy Ghost, your fire, fire, you know the quench, oh yeah, set me on fire. Hey, fire, 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 Pentecost fire, set me on fire. Hey, fire, 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 Holy Ghost fire, set me on fire. Fire, 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 Pentecost fire, set me on fire. Fire, 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 Holy Ghost fire, set me on fire.
The Holy Spirit came to loose your tongue so that your world can hear your voice. Loose your tongue so that your generation can hear your voice.
Holy Ghost, your fire, fire, you know the quench, Daddy set me on fire. Holy Ghost, your fire, fire, you know the quench, oh yeah, set me on fire. Fire, 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 Pentecost fire, set me on fire. Fire, 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 Holy Ghost fire, set me on fire. Fire, 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 Pentecost fire, set me on fire. Fire, 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 fire.
Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new MyCBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new MyCBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new MyCBN app.
Does the thought of reading the Bible seem daunting? Do you see the Bible as a boring book with many words and no pictures? Oh yeah, I used to feel that way too. Until I discovered something. God loves us so much, he sent us his words in a letter called the Bible. Think of it this way. If you came across a huge, ancient treasure chest, wouldn't you be curious about what's inside? The Bible is like a treasure chest. It contains many gems of wisdom that will help you make good decisions, get along with your parents, find the best kinds of friends, and cope with stress, especially in today's world, and so much more. So, on the show today, we will see the ways the Bible can help us. Here is Samsung in his award-winning song, E Dey Work.
He's a church boy, Samsung. The word of God in my mouth. The spirit of the Lord in my heart. When I speak in tongues, even my tithes and offering, the name of Jesus in my mouth. He dey work, he dey work. You said he dey work.
Coming up,
on TPI.
It's a bit scared of water, but under the influence of peer pressure, I had to demonstrate that I was.
It's a beautiful day on your favorite channel, Atlantic Television Network, and this is the International Tidbits. I am Christopher Lucky. Germany authorities on Friday returned to Nigeria the first two of more than 1,100 priceless sculptures known as the Benin Prosons that were looted by Europeans in the 19th century. British soldiers looted some 5,000 of artifacts, intricate sculptures and plaques dating back to the 13th century onwards, when they invaded the Kingdom of Benin in what is now southwestern Nigeria in 1897. The spoils made into museums around Europe and the United States. This is a story of European colonialism. We should not forget that Germany played an active role in this chapter of history, said German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock of a Berlin ceremony marking the transfer. The first two bronzes, one depicting the head of a king, the other showing a king and his full attendants, will be taken back personally by Nigerian Foreign Minister Zubaru Dada and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed, who were present at the ceremony. We acknowledge the horrific outrages committed under colonial rule, said Culture Minister Claudia Roth. We acknowledge the racism and slavery, the injustice and trauma that have left scars that are still visible today. Germany will help finance a museum to build in Benin City to house the repatriated Brozens. Ghana, one of West Africa's largest economies, will hold formal talks with the International Monetary Fund, IMF, on a support package, the government said on Friday, after hundreds took to the streets protesting mounting hardship. The cabinet gave its support for the decision at a meeting on Thursday, following a phone conversation between President Nana Akufo-Addo and IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva. Ghana, a gold, cocoa and oil producer, has until now refused to seek IMF support to rescue an economy crippled by the pandemic, rampant inflation and a depreciating currency, despite analysts warning it is close to a debt crisis. The IMF confirmed Ghana's request for help and said it would start discussion with the authorities in the coming weeks. The IMF stands ready to assist Ghana to restore macroeconomic stability, safeguard debt stability, promote inclusive and sustainable growth, and address the impact of the war in Ukraine and the lingering pandemic, an IMF spokesperson told reporters. Central Bank Governor Ernest Adeson said in May that Ghana faced an overall balance of payments deficit of $934.5 million in the first quarter of 2022, compared with $429.9 million in the same period last year. Analysts said the decision should help Ghana deal with its challenges. We have long waited for this to happen because we could tell it wasn't going to get better anytime soon, said William Duncan, founder of the Ghana-based Spare Capital and Advisory. Now that the IMF has been engaged, it will be interesting to see how government spends on their flagship programs and social interventions. Ghana dollar-dominated sovereign bonds rallied sharply with issues maturing in 2027, jumping more than 7 cents in the dollar to trade at the highest level since May. The first gain for Ghana will be improved international confidence in the country's capacity and efforts to weather the crisis, said Leslie Dwight-Mensah, economist and research fellow at the Institute for Fiscal Studies in Accra. Hundreds took to the streets in Accra this week to protest against spiraling inflation and other woes. Growth slowed to 3.3% year-on-year in the first quarter of 2022, and inflation hit a record of 27.6% in May. The central bank raised its main interest rate by 200 basis points to 19% last month, the second hike has this year to buttress macroeconomic stability. Moroccan authorities have begun prosecuting 65 migrants who joined Friday's mass attempt to cross into Spanish enclaves by storming a border post, leading to the death of at least 23 migrants, a judicial source said on Monday. About 2,000 migrants took part in the attempt, triggering violent skirmishes with Moroccan security forces and Spanish border guards at the Melilla enclave, with about 100 managing to get across. Moroccan authorities said the death resulted from a crush after that, which they call a stampede, and from migrants falling from a high fence. Scores more were injured, they said, along with dozens of Moroccan security personnel. The Moroccan Association of Human Rights Organizations said 29 migrants had died, citing unnamed hospital sources. On Sunday, the African Union voiced shock at what it called the violent treatment of migrants leading to deaths and injuries, and demanded an immediate investigation. Morocco and Spain have denied using excessive force. The judicial source said most of those being prosecuted are from Sudan, and they faced charges of igniting fires, attacking security forces, and facilitating illegal border crossings. AMDH said 3 of 8 lawyers would represent the migrants in court. Many other migrants detained by the authorities on Friday have been bused to southern Morocco and released there. AMDH said a practice Rabat began in 2018 to discourage illegal migration attempts. Video AMDH issued of the aftermath of Friday's disaster showed dozens of African men lying piled alongside each other, many apparently lifeless, some bleeding, and some making feeble movements, with Moroccan police stood over them. AMDH said the injured were left unattended for hours, adding to the death toll. Some of the footage showed Moroccan security officers striking men lying on the ground. Moroccan authorities shared their own footage of the border storming with African ambassadors, an official source said, including police efforts to clear migrant camps from forest areas near the enclave before the raid. The source said Rabat had not published the video, but confirmed that it was one published by a local French-language news website. It showed a very large group of migrants storming the fence using sticks and throwing rocks as they clashed with security guards who used tear gas to try to disperse them. At one point, a section of fence collapsed under a large group trying to climb over it, with many falling several meters. A court in Uganda released veteran opposition figure Kizza Besigye on bail on Friday after spending 2 weeks in jail awaiting trial on charges of inciting violence. Besigye, aged 66, was detained on June 14th in the capital Kampala as he led protests against skyrocketing consumer prices. He was charged with inciting violence the following day, and his initial bail application made that day was denied. On Friday, his lawyers applied for bail again, and magistrate ordered Besigye's release, saying he was satisfied that the accused sureties are substantial, according to a live video feed on Besigye's Facebook account of the court proceedings. The opposition figure will pay 2.5 million Kenyan shillings as bail as one of the conditions for his release. He was ordered to appear in court again on July 29. Ugandans have expressed widespread anger at the steep surge in prices of fuel, cooking oil, soap, wheat, and other goods, and the government's refusal to intervene to cushion consumers. Besigye has been calling for tax cuts to offset the rising inflation rate, but President Yoweri Museveni has rejected the idea, blaming the high prices on the war in Ukraine and the COVID-19 pandemic. Museveni, in power since 1986, is now Africa's 4th longest ruling leader, and the opposition and critics have accused him of rigging the polls and using security forces to maintain his grip on power. Museveni denies the accusations. Besigye has run against Museveni 4 times in the past and lost, although he rejected the results, alleging fraud. He has been arrested many times in the past. Germany will return guarded statue that was stolen from the Cameroon 120 years ago, the Persian Cultural Heritage Foundation said on Monday, part of a growing trend to back artifacts taken during the colonial era. The female figure, known as Ngonso, will be returned to the Kingdom of Nso in northwestern Cameroon. It was taken by colonial officer Kurt von Pavel and donated to Berlin's Ethnological Museum in 1903. Bring Back Ngonso, a civil society initiative, has been campaigning for the statue's return for years, as the Nso people say they have suffered numerous calamities since the statue was stolen. The Ngonso has a central role for the Nso, as she is considered a mother deity, the foundation said in a statement. It added that the artifact was not removed by war looting from Kombo, the capital of the Nso kingdom. However, Pavel was accompanied by armed soldiers in Cameroon, which would have intimidated the Nso, the foundation said. The foundation also announced that it will return 23 pieces to Namibia and is planning an agreement to repatriate objects to Tanzania. Germany, which lost all its colonial territories after World War I, was the third biggest colonial power after Britain and France. However, its colonial past was ignored by decades, while historians and politicians focused on the legacy of Nazi crimes, including the Holocaust. Last year, Germany announced its intention to return Benin bronzes to Nigeria and apologize for its role in the slaughter of Herero and Nama tribes people in Namibia more than a century ago. But its museum still hosts many of famous artifacts, such as parts of Iraq's Babylon Gate, which is on display at Berlin's Paragon Museum. Foundation President Herman Perzenga said the objects do not need to have been taken in an unjust context, like looting, for them to deserve repatriation. And we shall go for a short break, after which we'll return for more of the news. Do stay with us as we shall be back in a biffy. A big welcome back. A rival ethnic group has killed at least 30 villagers, including women and children, in western Cameroon in an attack. Some were burnt, while others were beheaded. The massacre was carried out on Saturday and Sunday in the village of Benkejo in the Akwaya commune, a few kilometers from the Nigerian border. Reverend Funke Samuel Fuba, spokesman for the Presbyterian Church of Cameroon, told AFP by telephone. More than 30 people were killed, he added. The tragedy between the Oliti and Masaga Ekol ethnic groups took place in the southwestern region, one of the Cameroon's two English-speaking regions where a deadly conflict has been raging for more than 5 years between armed separatist groups and the police, with civilians being the main victims. It also started with a land dispute between the Oliti and the Masago of Akwaya on 29 April. The Oliti attacked and killed several Masaga Ekol on their farms. The Oliti then mobilized and received the support of armed men they had hired and launched very violent, inhumane and destructive attacks against the Masaga Ekol, Reverend Foba said in a statement sent to AFP. 5 Nigerians were killed in the attacks on Saturday and Sunday, the statement said, including photos of bodies of dozens of victims, including children lying on the dirt floor of a village, child of mutilated. Armed men launched an attack on the massacre community. Young men, women, children, and even elderly people were killed. Some were killed in their homes, others on their way to the fields, the army officer told AFP. There is an intercommunal war that has been going on for years in Akwaya. The Oliti, who lived in the center of the district of Akwaya, are regularly victims of attack by neighboring populations. The rebel, and this is what led to the bloodshed, said the head of the local NGO. At the end of December 2021, at least 44 people had been killed and 111 wounded in the fortnight and the far north region, which is landlocked between Nigeria, Chad, and Niger, an area where such clashes are relatively frequent on both sides of the borders. The northwest and southwest regions have been seen as the deadly conflict for more than 5 years between armed groups calling for the independence of a state they called Ambazonia, and security forces massively deployed by the power of President Paul Biya, 89, who has ruled Cameroon with an iron fist for nearly 40 years. Parts of the English-speaking minority in this French-dominated country feels ostracized and marginalized. The conflict has left more than 6,000 people dead since the end of 2016 and forced more than 1 million people to move, according to the NGO International Crisis Group, ICG. Fury at Libya's feuding leaders boiled over on Friday as protesters stormed the parliament building in the eastern city of Tobruk and staged the biggest demonstration for years in the capital, Tripoli, in the west. The Tobruk protesters accusing the parliament of treason and stealing public money some 8 years after its election broke into the building and set fire to parts of it as armed forces there withdrew. In videos posted online and confirmed by city residents, the demonstrators shouted and cheered as flames licked off the side of the building, with political factions squabbling over control of government after failing to hold a scheduled election last year. Libya has been thrust back towards territorial division and civil war as state services gradually collapsed. Protests over chronic power cuts brought demonstrators onto the streets of several cities, braving the wrath of armed factions to voice their anger at failures that have made life intolerable during the sweltering summer months. In Tripoli's Matthias Square, several hundred people gathered to shout slogans demanding electricity, criticizing armed factions and politicians, and demanding elections in the capital's biggest protest against the ruling elite for years. Later on Friday, dozens of protesters stood by the government headquarters building, chanting, "We want electricity, we want electricity." Other protests of dozens of demonstrators also took place in each of Benghazi, Al-Badar, and Misrata, and some smaller towns, showing how anger the situation extends across the front lines of power between the country's rival forces. We are fed up, and we are fed up. The nation wants to topple government. We want electricity, shouted protesters in Tripoli, along with chants demanding elections. They also chanted slogans against the armed factions that exert control across swaths of Libya. No to militias. We want police and army, they chanted. Armed forces with police and military affiliations were visible around Matthias Square during the protest 2 years ago. Shots were fired at demonstrators. I'm here today to protest against all the officials who brought this country to hell, said Umar Dabal, 23, a science student. We're an oil-producing country and has power cuts every day. It means the country is run by corrupt individuals, he said. In the town of Al-Kubar in eastern Libya, hometown of Parliament Speaker Aguila Salah, dozens of residents demanded the fall of all governments and political bodies because of the low standards of living. Libya's electricity sector has been undermined by years of warfare and political chaos, stopping investment, preventing maintenance work, and sometimes demanding infrastructure. In Tripoli, protesters waved placards on which the faces of the Badr, Bashaga, Salah, another legislative leader, and the UN representative were crossed out with big red marks. The family of Democratic Republic of Congo's murdered independence hero Patrice Lumumba has buried his only known remains. His death at the hands of Belgian-backed secessionist rebels. Hundreds gathered in the vast square for the occasion on Thursday, waving flags and looking upon a large photo of Lumumba with his trademark bond-rimmed glasses and side-swept hair, framed by white flowers. Lumumba was killed by a firing squad on January 16, 1961, in the southeastern province of Katanga after being deposed as Prime Minister the previous year, all within months of DRC's independence from Belgium. A banner with the world's many thanks national hero was suspended over the crowd, which included the president of neighboring Congo Republic, Denis Sassou Nguesso, Belgium's foreign minister, and several African ambassadors. Finally, the Congolese people can have the honor of offering a burial to their illustrious Prime Minister. President Felix Tshisekedi said, "We are ending mourning we started 61 years ago." The funeral was held on the 62nd anniversary of the Central African country's independence. On that day, Lumumba had given a fiery speech lambasting Belgium's 75-year colonization of Congo. By some estimates, killings, famine, and disease killed up to 10 million Congolese during the first 23 years of Belgium's rule from 1885 to 1960, when King Leopold II ruled the Congo Free State as a personal fiefdom. Villages that missed rubber collection quotas were notoriously made to provide severe hands instead. While Belgium's King Philip, who visited the country for the first time this month, has admitted that Belgian colonial rule was unjustifiable and racist, he stopped short of an apology. DRC's first democratically elected Prime Minister Lumumba alarmed the West with overtures to Moscow at the height of Cold War. His government lasted just 3 months before he was overthrown and assassinated. Supporters and some historians have accused the CIA of involvement. A Belgian military investigation into Lumumba's killing concluded in 2002 that the Belgium was morally responsible for his death. The body was never found. His only remaining tooth was reportedly taken by Belgian policeman Gerard Sutter, who claims to have dissolved much of the corpse in acid and burned the rest. And here again is another news of which we shall be back in a jiffy. Do stay with us. I'm glad to know I still have you here with me on the International Tidbit on your premium channel, Atlantic Television Network. And now to the rest of the news. The World Health Organization has called for urgent action to prevent the spread of monkeypox in Europe, noting that cases had tripled there over the past 2 weeks. To date, more than 5,000 monkeypox cases have been reported from 51 countries worldwide. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, infections in Europe represent about 90% of the global total of cases, and 31 countries in the European region have now identified cases. World Health Organization Regional Director for Europe, Dr. Hans-Henry Kluge, said on Friday, "Today, I am intensifying my call for government and civil society to scale up efforts to prevent monkeypox from establishing itself across growing geographical area," Clark said in a statement. "Urgent and coordinated action is imperative if we are to turn a corner in the race to reverse the ongoing spread of the disease," Clark said. Kluge also said in his statement that there are no reported deaths from the current outbreak so far. Majority of cases are presented with a rash, and about 3/4 have reported systematic symptoms such as fever, fatigue, muscle pain, vomiting, diarrhea, chills, sore throats, or headache, Kluge said. Until May, monkeypox had never been known to cause large outbreaks beyond Africa, where the disease is endemic in several countries and mostly causes limited outbreaks when it jumps to people from infected wild animals. Clark said that Europe remains at the center of the expanding outbreak and the risk remains high. There is simply no room for complacency, especially right here in the European region, with its fast-moving outbreak that with every hour, day, and week is extending its reach into previously unaffected areas, he said. The World Health Organization does not think the outbreak currently constitutes a public health emergency of international concern, but will reveal its position shortly, he added. The UN agency estimates that the disease can be fatal, but smallpox vaccines are protective and some antiviral drugs are also being developed. To date, there have been about 1,800 suspected monkeypox cases, including more than 70 deaths in Africa. Vaccines have never been used to stop monkeypox outbreaks in Africa. The World Health Organization Africa office said this week that countries with vaccine supplies are mainly reserving them for their own populations. Most monkeypox infections so far have been observed in young men who have sex with men, chiefly in urban areas, according to the World Health Organization. It is investigating cases of possible sexual transmission, but maintains the disease is primarily spread through close contact. Kluge said the problem of stigmatization in some countries might make some people wary of seeking health care, and said the World Health Organization was working with partners, including organizers of gay pride events. At least 3 people have been killed and others injured after a train traveling from Los Angeles to Chicago hit a dump truck and derailed in a remote area in the U.S. state of Missouri. Authorities said it was not immediately clear how many people were hurt beyond the 3 people who died. Missouri State Highway Patrol said on Monday evening, "There are multiple injuries and we can confirm there were 3 fatalities, 2 on the train and 1 in the dump truck." Justin Dunn, a spokesperson for MSHP, told reporters at a press conference. At least 8 medical helicopters were responding from around the state. Matt Dotter, Life Light Eagle Director of Business Development, told the Kansas City Star. Doherty said he knew there were a number of injuries and some people were in critical condition. U.S. passenger rail company Amtrak said in a statement that the train derailed at about 12:42 p.m. local time. It said the train was traveling eastbound from the Los Angeles to Chicago when it struck a truck that was obstructing a public crossing near Mendon, Missouri, about 160 kilometers northeast of Kansas City. Approximately 243 passengers and 12 crew members were on board. Local authorities are currently assisting customers. Our incident response team has been activated and we are deploying emergency personnel to the scene to help support our passengers, our employees and their families with their needs, the company said. Helicopter video in Kansas City from the scene showed rail cars on the sides as emergency responders used ladders to climb into one of them. The video also showed 6 medical helicopters parked nearby, waiting to transport patients. 3 passengers were taken to University Hospital in Columbia Hospital. Spokesperson Eric Maz said he did not have information on their conditions. Passengers on the train included high school students from Pleasant Ridge High School in Easton, Kansas, who were headed to Future Business Leaders of America conference in Chicago. Superintendent Tim Bayang told the Kansas City Star. Macron has told Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese he wanted to focus on the future as they try to rebuild relations badly strained by his predecessor's decision to ditch a submarine contact with Paris. Relations between the two Western allies reached a low last October when Australia cancelled the multi-billion-dollar French submarine program and opted for submarines to be built with US and British technology instead. On Friday, Macron said the two would discuss defense and geostraffic issues, but also new projects in terms of renewable energy, critical metals, space, and the South Pole, with 2 countries both having territories in the Antarctic. 2 Muslim men have been arrested in India's Udaypur city in the western state of Rajasthan for allegedly beheading Hindu tailor over his support online for a former ruling party official whose remarks about Prophet Muhammad sparked global protests. Mobile internet services and large gatherings remain restricted in Udaypur on Wednesday, a day after the mother of Kanhaiya was stabbed multiple times inside his tailoring shop on Tuesday by 2 cleaver. Dido accused Lal of blasphemy in the video. The 2 men later claimed responsibility for the killing in another video and allegedly threatened to kill Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the same manner. TV reports aired video of Lal lying on the ground with his throat slit. Police said both accused were arrested within hours of the incident. Both the accused in the killing have been arrested and will ensure that strict punishment and speedy justice. Ashok Gehlot, Chief Minister of Rajasthan, said on Twitter. Gehlot appealed to people to stay calm and not share the video as it would serve the attackers' motive of creating discord in society. Authorities rushed additional police into Udaypur on Tuesday to counter any religious unrest. India's Home Ministry has dispatched a team of its anti-terror agency to Rajasthan to investigate whether the killing had any links to terrorist groups. So far, the state police have not charged the 2 arrested men with terrorism. Rajasthan, a state governed by opposition Congress party, saw tensions last month as well when Hindus and Muslims in Jodhpur city clashed during religious festivals of both the communities. In 2017, a Hindu man in the state brutally killed a Muslim laborer in a religious attack and shared a video of the victim being hacked to death and then set on fire. According to local media, Lal had shared a social media post 10 days ago supporting Napo Sharma, the suspended spokeswoman for Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party (BJP), who made controversial remarks on the Prophet Muhammad and his wife Aisha on TV show in May. The Dutch central bank chief has, alongside for the institution's involvement in the 19th century slave trade, the latest expression of contrition and in the Netherlands linked to the country's historic role in the trade and enslaved people. The apology came on Friday at an event on the century's National Day, marking the Dutch abolishment of slavery, and followed similar moves in the recent years from municipal authorities in the main Dutch cities of Amsterdam, Rotterdam and Utrecht. The Netherlands Bank has acknowledged that it was involved in the transatlantic slave trade between 1814 and 1863 and even paid compensation to plantation owners when the Netherlands abolished slavery. including the members of the central bank's board at the time. Klaas Knot, the president of the bank, told the gathering in Amsterdam, "Today, on behalf of the Netherlands Bank, I apologize for this reprehensible act. I apologize to all those who, because of the personal choices of many, including my predecessors, were reduced to the color of their skin," he said. The bank announced a series of measures, including boosting diversity and inconclusiveness in the ranks and setting up a €5 million fund for projects aimed at reducing contemporary negative effects of 19th century slavery. Not apology came exactly after a year. Amsterdam Mayor Femke Halseka apologized for the Dutch capital's role in the slave trade. In April, Dutch bank ABN AMRO also apologized for historic links to slavery in the 18th and 19th centuries. At least 8 protesters were shot dead in Sudan on Thursday, medics said, as large crowds took to the streets despite heavy security and communications blackouts to rally against the military leadership that seized power 8 months ago. In central Khartoum, security forces fired tear gas and water cannon in the afternoon as they tried to prevent swelling numbers of protesters from marching towards the presidential palace, witnesses said. They estimated the crowds in the Khartoum and its twin cities of Omdurman and to be at least in the tens of thousands, the largest for months. In the Omdurman, witnesses reported tear gas and gunfire as security forces prevented protesters from crossing into Khartoum, though some later made it across. The protest in the capital and other cities marked the 3rd anniversary of huge demonstrations during the uprising that overthrew long-time autocratic ruler Omar al-Bashir and led to a power-sharing arrangement between civilian groups and the military. Last October, the military led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan toppled and transitional government, triggering rallies demanding the army quit politics. Some of Thursday protesters carried banners calling for justice for those killed in previous demonstrations. Others chanted, "Burhan, Burhan, back to the barracks and hand over your components," referencing to the military's economic holdings. In the evening, protesters in the Bari and Khartoum said they were starting sit-ins against Thursday's deaths, one of the highest single-day tolls to death. June 30 also marks the day Bashir took power in a coup in 1989. "Either we get to the presidential palace and remove al-Burhan, or we won't return home," said a 21-year-old female student protesting in Bari. It was the first time in months of protests that internet and phone services had been cut after the military takeover. Extended internet blackouts were imposed in an apparent effort to weaken the protest movement. Military leaders said they dissolved the government in October because of political paralysis, although they are yet to appoint a prime minister. International financial support agreed with the transitional government was frozen after the coup and an economic crisis had deepened. Burhan said on Wednesday the armed forces were looking forward to the day when an elected government could take over, but this could only be done through consensus or elections, not protest. And finally, the suspected driver of a truck packed with dozens of migrants who died in a sweltering heat during a smuggling attempt in Texas and an accused conspirator were charged in U.S. federal court on Wednesday with human trafficking offenses. If convicted, each man faces a maximum sentence of life in prison or possibly the death penalty, the U.S. Justice Department said in announcing charges stemming from the deadliest migrant trafficking incident on record in the United States. The death toll from the tragedy rose to 53 on Wednesday as local authorities reported to 2 more migrants initially hospitalized from their ordeal parked inside a sweltering tractor-trailer truck had died. The truck carrying migrants from Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador was discovered abandoned on Monday in a desolate industrial area near a highway on the outskirts of San Antonio, Texas, about 160 miles north to the U.S.-Mexico border. Temperatures in the area that day soared as high as 39.4 Celsius, and authorities called to the scene found no water supplies or signs of working air conditioning inside the cargo trailer. Officials described finding the rear door to the trailer ajar with stack of bodies inside, many of them hot to the touch. Other victims were discovered on the ground nearby, some deceased, some incapacitated. It was not made clear from officials' accounts how the door opened. According to radio dispatched audio from authorities who were first on the scene, no one inside the trailer was conscious. Only about a dozen appeared at first to be breathing. The truck's alleged driver, Homero Zamarano Jr., 45, a Texas native who was arrested near the scene, was charged in a criminal complaint with one count of alien smuggling resulting in death. According to the Justice Department, San Antonio police officers found Zamorana hiding in the bush, according to federal prosecutors. Francisco Gaduna, head of Mexico's National Migration Institute, told news conference earlier on Wednesday the driver had tried to pass himself off as one of the survivors when he was detained. A second suspect, Christian Martinez, 28, was arrested on Tuesday and charged with a single count of conspiracy to transport illegal aliens. The Justice Department said in its statement. His nationality was not immediately revealed. Two more men suspected of involvement in the deadly smuggling incident, both of them Mexican nationals, were charged on Tuesday in U.S. federal courts with being illegal immigrants in possession of firearms. A federal judge in San Antonio has ordered them to remain in custody to face a preliminary hearing set for Friday. And that's it on today's edition of the International Tidbits. But just before we go, let's have a recap on the stories making the headlines. We told you that Germany returns looted Benin prisons. Ghana sets to hold formal talks with IMF on support package. Opposition figure Kiza Pizege on bail after 2 weeks in jail. Libyans protest against feuding leaders in Tripoli. World Health Organization calls for urgent action to prevent the spread of monkeypox in Europe. You can stay connected with us on all our social media platforms. On Facebook and YouTube, it's Atlantic Television Network. And on Instagram, it's Atlantic TV Network. While on Twitter, it is Atlantic TV Net. Do remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. I am Christopher Lucky. Do have a good day.
Coming up on TPI.
Okay, we have to talk about this. The one you did about being a 29-year-old virgin. Why did you choose that path?
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting. You know, it took me a while to catch up to the why of God. And that's why I think that there is a difference between practicing celibacy and walking in purity.
Hello and welcome to TPI. I'm your host, Muyiwa. Now, there are a million shows you could have watched, but I'm so glad that you landed here. I promise you it will be worth your time. Now, first up, the man in our next story dreamed of becoming a professional fisherman, but he struggled with a debilitating disease that kept him ashore. However, he refused to give up on his lifelong aspirations. Take a look.
I used to think it was pretty cool all the time that Jesus was always with fishermen, and every golfers in the Bible was always fishermen. That's kind of my joke about that, so it did draw me to want to read more and learn more, just interested in why Jesus chose fishermen.
Randy Howell has always loved fishing.
The fishing lifestyle is a lifestyle of faith because you're chasing after, a little green fish that you don't see. And it's a lot like your journey with Christ. It's all faith-based. You can't see it, so that's a pretty good parallel.
Randy came to faith as a young boy while attending Vacation Bible School.
About 12 years old is when I really felt the Holy Spirit tugging at my heart, and that conviction to where I knew, you know, what right and wrong really was, and that I wanted to, you know, be saved and have a relationship with Jesus.
He says that from a young age, he knew he had a call that might involve fishing.
My mom took me to a lot of revivals and a lot of places like that. Pastors would call me out in a crowd there and say, you know, God's got, you know, a special calling on your life.
But as a teen, Randy began experiencing health issues that threatened to derail his dreams of a fishing career.
I found out I had ulcerative colitis, but little did I know it was going to turn into something big and major, you know, where surgeries were going to be required, and that was the big shocker.
After high school, Randy married Robin and got his first pro fishing tour card when his illness struck with a vengeance.
I was on the lake, and the first day I was in 10th place, and I needed to make the top 10 to advance to the All-American. And I started throwing up blood. I came in from fishing. I was by myself. I lived 8 hours from where I was at the tournament, so I worked my way back, stopping at gas stations, throwing up blood.
Randy got to a hospital in Rocky Mount, North Carolina just in time.
Doctors said, you know, you were within a couple hours of having peritonitis, and I could have died within hours if I hadn't got there, and that was what made it really real when they told me that. I had a lot of infections, so they only took 2/3 of my colon out in my first surgery.
Because of his health problems, Randy began to wonder if he would ever fish professionally.
At Duke, the doctors, you know, said this is going to be a very difficult thing to chase for you because you're going to end up having a lot of issues with going to the bathroom, possibly more surgeries in the future, and it was kind of discouraging report.
The illness caused Randy to pursue the Lord deeper.
When adversity hits you for the first time, that's when you truly, you know, you go from really religion to relationship. And I totally submitted my life to Him at the time, and I said, Lord, whatever you want me to do with my life, whether it's fishing or something else, here I am. I'm ready to do it. I'm just thankful to be alive. That's where God's miracle working power came in and healed me quickly, because those surgeries should have taken 6 to 9 months between each one, but instead I had all 3 surgeries within 4 months, and that was the part that was miraculous.
Now that he was healed, Randy went back to fishing. Not only was he winning tournaments and getting endorsements, he now had a platform to share his faith.
That's when God said, you know, I didn't call you to be a missionary in China, I called you to be a fisherman, and this is what I want you to go do. So that's where my speaking's kind of started. Jesus told stories, and that's what the parables were in the Bible, and that's all I had to do was tell my story, and that's all anybody has to do is tell their story to bring people to know Jesus, and that's what fired me up and got me excited.
God was preparing him for the biggest moment in his professional life. In 2014, he was fishing in the Bassmaster Classic at Guntersville Lake, Alabama.
I was in 11th place after 2 days, and all the media had pretty much, you know, written it off that anybody outside the top 10 could have a chance of winning. And that's the day that I went out the next morning, and I'm running up the lake, and it had just the clearest ever of just a Holy Spirit visitation in my boat. And I saw a vision in my mind and said, turn the boat around now and go to this bridge. And I saw a quick glimpse, like a video in my head, of me under this bridge casting and catching fish.
Randy heeded the voice.
I turned the boat around and ran back to this bridge, and as soon as I pulled up, I started catching fish on every cast and made at the time the greatest comeback in Bassmaster Classic history. I was almost 10 pounds behind. I came back with the largest catch of the day, 29 pounds 2 ounces, and ended up winning by 1 pound, winning $300,000 World Championship. I didn't do it, it was God that did it that day.
Randy is now one of the top-rated bass fishermen in the world. He has had no health issues and continues to win major tournaments. And he continues to tell his story.
You got to fall in love with Jesus. You can't just get a Bible and just say, you know, and go to church and say I'm a Christian. And when you do that and you go all in, you see it happen, and then you know it's real. Adversity is going to make you stronger, and it's just going to make you persevere. When you know who's in control and you discover your purpose, then you can make a difference. You just got to go all in and believe, and God will open the doors and take care of you.
I love it. Listen for that still small voice in every moment and every day. If Randy had become overwhelmed by what he saw, he wouldn't have had the capacity to hear the voice of God. Obeying God would be the difference maker in your life. Now stay with us. After the break, a man spends nearly 25 years in jail for a crime he did not commit.
Prison was really rough. I was in prison for something I didn't do. So I did start getting in a lot of trouble, you know, but I was very angry.
Your Turning Point experience doesn't have to end when the program is over. Follow us on your favorite social media.
The people, the candidates, the party, the campaigns. What really makes an election year? Enough of the rhetorics. It's time for issue-based politics. 2023 elections. Who are the candidates? What do you know about them? Take a seat, relax, and join us for the 2023 elections on Atlantic Television Network, StarTimes, DTH, Channel 194, or ATN Live on Google Play Store and all our social media platforms. Twitter is at Atlantic TV Net. Facebook and YouTube is at Atlantic Television Network. On Instagram is at Atlantic TV Network. Elections 2023 from Mondays to Fridays at 8 p.m. Election 2023. We the people have a stake.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-the-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Welcome to ATN's recap. Before we go into the recap, I believe today today has been a wonderful day for you. Today has been a day rather full of love and joy for you, especially because today is Sunday. And of course, the Christians out there, I believe that you went to church today, and of course, you had a refreshing time in church. Somehow, you know, whenever you're in church, there is always this ability for you to get a refreshing because of the word of God that has been preached to you in church this morning. And somehow I believe as well that you've been charged up for the new week that is coming up. And of course, with the refreshing, with everything that you've had in church this morning and today, I'm certain that you're going to have a productive week ahead. Once again, good morning, rather good afternoon, and welcome to ATN's Recap. And of course, you know how we do it on the Recap. We bring to your reminder all of the beautiful stories that have happened this week. All might not be beautiful, but again, we'll just remind you of some of the happenings that have happened this week. And first, we're going to go on a break, and then when we come back, the conversation is going to continue from there. Welcome back, and if you're just joining us, this is ATN's Recap. On the Recap, we'll bring to your reminder all of the things that have happened this week. Maybe not all of it, but happened this week, and some of the stories that have been outlined for the recap today. First on the story is Amechi says to his supporters, vote for APC. Now you recall, of course, that during the primaries of the APC, Rotimi Amechi lost to Tinubu. And lots of his supporters were very much aggrieved, and lots of persons were saying it was Amechi's right to have won, or rather to win the flag bearership of the APC. But again, Amechi didn't win that. Ahmed Bola Tinubu won the standard bearer for the APC, and Amechi just came back to Rivers State by the weekend, and he's saying to all of the aggrieved supporters of the APC to continue to vote for to vote for APC in the forthcoming election, saying that the party it's more important. And so that is Amechi saying to his supporters, vote for APC no matter what has happened. And the next on our story, Kwankwaso saying, I can't be running mate for anyone. That is from Kwankwaso. Now remember that in the past weeks, there has been this talk that there's going to be a merger between Kwankwaso and P2B, that is the NMPP and the Labour Party. But again, Kwankwaso has come out to say that he's not going to be a running mate to anyone. And this has been some of the things that we projected to have been one of the reasons that the merger was being delayed or hasn't happened already. Who was going to step down for who was going to be a running mate for who. But again, Kwankwaso has come out to make his stance very clear that he can't be a running mate for anyone. Perhaps P2B might decide to be a running mate to Kwankwaso. Is that possible? We do not know. But again, maybe the merger would happen. Maybe the merger would not happen. But Kwankwaso has said he will not be a running mate to anyone. And next on our story, we have bandits released abducted medical director and head workers, also refund 5 million naira ransom. You recall that some weeks back, bandits abducted some medical workers and then demanded for a 5 million naira ransom. But very recently, this week precisely, I think that was on Friday, when the bandits released all of the head workers and also refunded the 5 million naira ransom that they asked for. That is quite surprising. We're going to find out exactly why that was so. And then last on the story this afternoon, we have the story of Ike Ekweremadu, the federal government engaging lawyers for Ekweremadu. That happened this week. These are some of the stories, of course, that we are going to be having conversations on the recap. All of these beautiful things have happened. Of course, if you're just joining us for the very first time, this is Atlantic Television Network, and you are watching the recap on Atlantic Television Network. So joining us on the conversation today is our colleague from our sister station, OK, who has been here with us. Also, he is a broadcast journalist. Welcome on the show, Mr. OK.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. I'm sure you went to church today as well. You didn't go.
I was working.
Oh, you were working. I'm sure you enjoyed work as well today.
Yeah.
Yeah, good
Work
to
for me Sunday mornings is fun.
Oh, awesome. It's good to have you here this morning. So let's go straight to the conversation that we have this morning. First, the former Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Chibika Amechi, has urged his supporters to vote for the All Progressive Congress APC in the 2023 polls. Amechi stated this after he arrived in Rivers State on Saturday, addressing aggrieved members of the party who had expected him to win the APC presidential primary. He said, no matter their anger, they should still vote for the APC. According to Amechi, he said, please, in the contest for the presidency, we should know that we should vote for our party, no matter how angry you are. Forget the stories you're hearing. Forget about those gossiping about a meeting in France. Let this place be your own France. Vote for your party, Amechi says. Amechi lost out to the national leader of the ruling party, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, during the primaries. Of course, you're aware of that. And lots of persons have been saying Amechi should have been the one to be the standard bearer of the APC. Coming to you now, Mr. Okay, what do you make of that?
It's not surprised Amechi lost that election. The only way Amechi would have won that election would have been if he was endorsed by Mr. President. You know, President Buhari had mentioned at some point when he was interviewed on television that he has a candidate. And people rumored that candidate would be Amechi. And when Amechi went over to the president's locality, president, not just his state, to his locality, and was to band, given that title, and people felt, oh yes, he has been blessed, anointed by Mr. President. And the president went a further step and told the governors, the progressive governors, the APC governors, he told them, allow me choose my successor. He said, go ahead, go meet, converge, get to a point where you decide and give me a name, a consensus name. People felt that, oh, that person is Amechi. But we saw how things progressed, and even when a consensus candidate was announced, it wasn't Amechi. It was the Senate President, Lawan, that was Ahmad Lawan, that was announced. And people felt that that was the president testing the waters to see if he mentions a candidate, how people would take it. When that happened, it didn't go down well with people. So the president, more like, was at a position where he knew that if anything happens, that he decides to name anybody, people would not receive it. Remember the way other candidates had to step down for the APC chairman and how that didn't go down well. So the president probably in his wisdom decided to step aside and allow the candidates to do their thing. Once it got to the polls, we knew very certainly that there was no other person amongst the candidates in the APC that would win apart from a certain Ahmed Bola Tinubu.
Were there indications that actually led to the assumption of we knowing that it was certainly going to be Ahmed Bola Tinubu?
Well, when we talked about Ahmed Tinubu and structure, you cannot mention Amechi and Tinubu in the same breath when it has to do with structure. Amechi, what the best he would do is to come a distant second, which is what we saw play out. If you put together all the votes in that primaries, they didn't even come up to what Tinubu garnered. Because he had been the Jagaban. He was not called the Jagaban for nothing. He has a structure. And of course, when you have what options does he have? Is it a situation whereby he's no longer vying for presidency? He's lost it. He's not a minister right now. So on the side, I will even ask, is Amechi still the leader of the APC in Rivers State? Is he? Because you say the leader is the person with the highest position in the land. Amechi doesn't have a position, let alone the highest position. So could we even still call him the leader of the APC? That aside, anyway. Amechi is coming back to tell his supporters, vote for the APC. Who should they vote for? Who should they vote for? What other chance does he have?
Because, since the supporters are actually aggrieved, lots of them might want to say, because our person isn't vying for this presidency anymore, so we can scatter our votes to maybe other options, other parties of the country.
To be very frank with you, will not really yield the desired benefits.
Why do you think so?
Because you're asking your supporters, vote for Tinubu. Your supporters are thinking, what are our benefits? In this political game, no permanent foe, no permanent friend, only permanent interests. As long as our interests aligns, their interest was to see their man Amechi be more than what he already had before under the Buhari government. So I'm thinking, so if you're asking your supporters, vote for APC, well, that's your stand. It's good that you've come to tell them, see with the APC, it's good. So he's supposed to know that he's still with us, unlike Governor Wike that has not come to state his stance in support of Atiku. That it's certain other people are thinking, if we merge with someone that has a stronger pact with Tinubu, we might be able to benefit something. We've heard from the rumor bag. Like some people say, the Nigerian political rumor bag is very transparent. It seems as though it's a rumor, but in fact, it's something that is very glaring even to the blind.
Okay.
A certain Magnus Abe have said time and again that he will be on the ballots in Rivers State come 2023. And we know he's a strong ally of Tinubu.
And we're looking at what's the possibility.
I'm coming to that. He's a strong ally of Bola Tinubu. In fact, the structure in Rivers State that we talk about, Tinubu's structure in Rivers State, is the Abe structure. You get the point. So if Abe should be on the ballot, how will he be on the ballot? People are thinking, okay, APC is in courts. He might be struck off. If Tony Cole is struck off, will Abe replace him? The answer is no anyway.
Okay.
But what other options are there for Abe? And the rumor bag has it that he is going to be flaunted under the SDP.
Okay.
You know, it was rumored earlier that Tinubu might cross carpet to the SDP. It might be a situation whereby Abe flags out for the SDP, gives Tinubu his support for presidency, and in turn gets the support of Tinubu for the states. Of course, you know, if he wins, he might be able to, if the present law allows, might be able to still shift to the APC. So if people are in Rivers State and are thinking that, oh, if this Abe's deal is really true and can work out for us, think about it. What will be more gainful to them? Knowing that Tinubu and Amechi are not parties. Remember, when Amechi had to come to Rivers State to declare for presidency, he had to run around the stadium to prove that he is fit. Hitting, giving a direct hit to Tinubu, that you are not fit, I'm fit.
That could be an assumption, but he didn't mention
Tinubu responded, I don't need to run around the stadium to prove that I'm fit. So if he was not being called out by that act, why did Tinubu have to respond?
Perhaps Tinubu might have taken it personal. Say, this might be for me. That could also be an assumption from Tinubu as a person.
In the political space, the electorate is always crying out that we don't need a president that is unfit. We need a president that is fit. And you come in to declare for Mr. President, and you run around the stadium, and you are asked, and you tell us that you're trying to show us that at least you're young and fit. And that's the it is to run around the stadium and still went to take out the mic. It shows that physically he's probably fit. It shows from what we see that he's fit. But aside from that, being fit is no guarantee that you do well as the president of the country. Being fit is no guarantee that your brains are up and running and everything that we want, you have it. Being fit does not translate to good leadership. So it's just one aspect of being fit. Well, it counts for something, but it doesn't count for everything. So in the case of Amechi, to hit it finally, in the case of Amechi talking about his voters, yes, he can tell his voters to support him. But right now, I bet you, because of this game that we call politics, he has lost a good number of his supporters. Because people are thinking, what do we have that we can hold on to? Remember, if an Amechi comes to Rivers State and wants to see as much as he can, you know, he mentioned, forget that visit in France, because it was mentioned that Tinubu and Wike had a meeting in France. Nobody had come to openly say that happened. Seen denials and denials and denials, but you know, there's no smoke without fire. So he said, forget that meeting. And remember that the elections are being won in your units. He's trying to tell people that, hey, try and vote because your vote will count. He's trying to push to his people. But the case is this, and Amechi coming back home to make the elections work. What is he coming with? He doesn't have the federal might anymore. He's not a minister.
But doesn't he have an influence per se in some areas, or not just some areas, in Rivers State as a whole? Even though he's no longer a minister, even though he's no longer holding any position currently politically, doesn't he have an influence that could help the APC still win in Rivers State?
For he to have been former governor, former speaker of the House of Assembly, minister, of course, he sure does have a lot of supporters. But if you look at who he's up against, when he was a minister, he came up against a sitting governor, didn't win. When he was a governor, he came up against an ex-minister. He didn't win. So now tell me, being an ex-minister himself, coming up against a governor that we know we can say is about the most powerful governor, arguably in Nigeria, and you say he will win? It's very unlikely that he'll win. And more so, if he has an Abe to contend with. Remember, the APC votes will be torn in two. Because Abe has a large chunk of supporters too. We cannot say if Amechi has more or Abe has more. And remember, in this era whereby you're seeing as a politician, you want to grow as a young politician, you're seeing the signs that the APC doesn't really have a viable choice right now. And if Abe aligns very well with Tinubu, you're likely to gain from an Abe than to gain from a Tony Cole. As an APC man, who will you support? It might be easy for you because you want us to benefit. You might just cross carpet to SDP if the reward bags are as transparent as I'm seeing it anyway.
So we could right now say that you've become a prophet of politics.
Not necessarily a prophet because, like I said earlier, the rumor bags, political rumor bags are very transparent. You can see through them. So when something drops, except it changes at the last minute, it's very likely to be true.
Awesome. So let's just keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
However, expect what happens as the 2023 election comes very closely. And then moving on to the next conversation for this afternoon, we have Rabiu Kwankwaso saying that he cannot be running mate for anyone. Now, Rabiu Kwankwaso, the presidential candidate of the New Nigerian People's Party, NNPP, on Saturday said accepting to be the running mate to any presidential candidate would lead to the collapse of NNPP. Kwankwaso, who was in Gombe State to inaugurate the state office of NNPP and meet with elected members of the party, disclosed this in an interview with newsmen. The former governor of Kano State said with the fame the NNPP had achieved within the short time, anything short of his presidency would mean the collapse of the NNPP. Kwankwaso also confirmed that his party had been in talks with the Labour Party for a possible merger, but the main problem that hindered progress was the issue of who would become the presidential candidate. He said from the discussion with the Labour Party, the main issue was who becomes the president if the parties merge together. Now, at the end of the day, some of our representatives thought that there should be a criterion in terms of age, qualification, offices held, performance, and so on. And of course, the other side would not want that. That is Kwankwaso saying. Most of the people from there believe that president has to go there. That is the Southeast, talking about the zoning. If now I decide to be the vice presidential candidate to anybody in this country, NNPP will collapse because the party is based on what we've built in the last 30 years. According to Kwankwaso, he said he has served for 17 years as a civil servant. We're talking about 47 years of very serious hard work. That's what is really holding the NNPP right now. That is Kwankwaso saying. Mr. Oke, you also recall the back and forth talks of the Labour Party and the NNPP talking about the merger that was supposed to happen. But Kwankwaso has come out to say that he can't be a running mate to anyone right now in the country. Basic reason being that if he decides to be a running mate, then the NNPP will collapse. But again, without the merger, what is the stance in your own perspective of Kwankwaso, emerging as president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
The best NNPP, the New Nigerian People's Party, will get is to win Kano. The best. That is if they can even win Kano. Remember, I still have a Ganduje that is a governor of Kano State, an APC member. So Kano is more like still have APC support, although that has been turned into because you have Kwankwaso, former governor, Shekarau, former governor, and Ganduje, former governor, all at loggerheads 2-1. Shekarau and Kwankwaso on one side, and Ganduje on the other side. Remember, the tables are turning. Kwankwaso and Ganduje were allies against Shekarau, and now it's turned. Shekarau and Kwankwaso are now allies against Ganduje. So it seems as though it is written that NNPP would win, would take over Kano. That's how I seem looking at it. And you see that NNPP they're progressing into Kaduna and some other northern states. So the best is that they will have a good number of votes in the north. But come south, they won't. They will struggle to even get 1,000 votes. They will really struggle. NNPP will really struggle to get 1,000 votes. Because it's no longer a one-sided thing. It's not something that is engulfing most the areas, the key areas in the country. So you're thinking, this is something notable. So, but one of them will have to bend for each other. He cannot be, but never say never. Because the question you pose to him is that, if you merge with Obi and you're a vice presidential candidate, do you see a real possibility? Maybe at that point, if you could now say he has a 30% chance of winning and being vice president, will you prefer that than stick with your NNPP and you have a 1/5% or a 20% chance of winning? Which will you jump on? Of course, you want to jump on the 30% side because you now be more like between the Labour Party, the APC, and the PDP. Which would you prefer? So if he thinks about it in that light and sees that this LP issue, Labour Party issue, is a strong force, that if I merge with this guy, become his deputy, I can get Asorok, and who knows, after 8 years, I might become president.
So based on analysis right now, you're saying basically that the Labour Party has more force than the NNPP currently in the nation?
If we go by what the social media spaces are saying, that's the case. Because the way you see people talking about being obedient, we're not seeing them mention, the Kwakwanso movement is called something, and it's not so popular. We're struggling to even remember it. But we all know obedient. Why do we know it? Probably because we're in the South, maybe. But because, not just that, but because it is encroaching into some other spaces that hitherto were on charted ground for a party like that. So when you look at it and you see what a Peter Obi is projecting, it seems like people are aligning towards him. So if Kwakwanso joins, if Peter Obi decides to be deputy to Kwakwanso, I bet you all that will fall. All the social media hulabaloo will just drop, because it's like people are pushing for the person of Peter Obi. So if Kwakwanso really reads in between the line, he would drop his ego and align with Peter Obi. He can still be president, but maybe not now. Because right now, if you ask me, he doesn't have a chance. If you go to the polls, right now, the way it stands, Tinubu, Atiku, Obi, and Kwakwanso, I may not be certain who will be number one out of Tinubu and Atiku, as it stands now, if you go to the polls, because of the strength of both political parties, APC and PDP. But Peter Obi would likely come third, and the Kwakwanso will come fourth, if you go to the polls right now. But we still have... how many months before the election? The election is in February. So there's a whole lot that can happen between now and then. And one of them is the measure between NNPP and the Labour Party. If it happens, then we really have a very strong thought force. Until that happens, they'll just be like other parties that have come up before, make some noise, and go back, and nothing happens. But do not overlook the Labour Party. Overlook the Labour Party, it may just be at your own peril.
If you also recall, very recently, Kwakwanso had visited Wike, Peter Obi also visited Wike, right in River State. Lots of persons were on the speculations that one of the reasons why they visited was for that merger to happen, that perhaps Wike could help facilitate that merger to happen. But again, of course, Wike hasn't said anything. Kwakwanso has come out to state his own stance. Peter Obi hasn't said anything currently. But still on that, we're still looking at the possibility. Now, the Kwakwanso will say he has the strength in the north. And that is, in what most persons will say, this is what Peter Obi also needs right now for him to win. He also needs the strength from the north. Having that, to an extent, this area, he's more popular, talking about the south and the east. He has gained lots of popularity. And of course, there's been some story that broke out that, of course, also in the western region, that he also has some form of, some sort of strength happening for him. Now, using the north, that Peter Obi might be needing to also emerge as the winner of the election, if the merger happens, don't you think that could be a form of compromise? Peter Obi might want to say, okay, well, I could merge, I could bend for a Kwakwanso to lead while I deputize for him.
You know, one of the supports that Peter Obi is getting is because some persons are thinking it's a turn of the South. And we do not want these people that we have looked at and said they have been in power before. They are people that have kicked strongly against the APC and the APC current government have an opinion that the current government have not done well. And they have a lot of indices that they will check and say, this is this, this is that. If we want to consider these indices, the current government have not done well. Top on the list, of course, is insecurity, and of course, closely followed by the economy. So if you look at those indices, and you want to say, you want to fix in a Tinubu in that place, it's more like still asking us to continue with what is happening. But, and since we want a southerner, what's our next, what's the next person for us to run to? Peter Obi. What does it stand for? He's in preaching the gospel in a way that the gospel here, not the Bible gospel. The gospel, he's been sermonizing about his personality. People have tried to check on him and to see if he has dent in his image. Everyone has a dent. But every time we've checked, it has come out clean that this might just happen to be a different breed. And if we want Nigeria to work, it might just be the person that we should align with. So looking at that, that is where that support is coming from. A little tint of ethnicity from the south. Another strong bias is the talk of an Igbo president.
Yeah.
Another one is about a change, a real change. So if these three things are working, it seems Peter Obi is just a right person to pick. He coming to meet Wike and Kwakwan and some other people coming to meet Wike points to the fact that Wike is a bulldozer, is a strong name. If Wike remains with the PDP and throws his weight behind the Labour Party or the NNPP, as the case may be, you're sure that a lot of people follow Wike. So if just picture if a Kwakwanso and a Peter Obi merges and a Wike is a campaign DG. It sounds like wishful thinking. But just picture something like that. A lot of things will happen, a lot of tables, a lot of people will thrown off the table, a lot of things will shake.
But do you think there's a possibility that Wike will actually defect to another party?
It's very, in order for him not to eat his vomit, in order for him not to go back on his words, Wike will not defect. Because Wike still has all to do in the PDP, especially as it regards River State. He has this man that he has to make governor, Sim Fubara. He must make that man governor. That's the only thing Wike can do to make him still be very relevant.
When he say he must make him governor, is it more like he has to pass over to Sim Fubara to become governor, more like a hereditary thing?
Yeah, so that's how it looks like. Because it's actually hereditary. What I would like to not...
So you're saying that politics in Nigeria is hereditary?
It's hereditary, is anointing. Kind of. So for us to shake the apple cart a little bit, that's why people are thinking of an anointed Tinubu.
When he said the powers that be, let's get a clarification. When he said the powers that be, what exactly did he mean?
If you see people vying for positions, there are certain persons that you must go to consult, to pay homage to. Some of these persons, I will name names. Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida.
So you're talking about stakeholders.
Those are the stakeholders, they are the powers that be, they are the ones that have led Nigeria, that have seen Nigeria from a different perspective than most people have. How many presidents have we had that are still up and running and kicking? So when these ones are still there, you must reach out to them because they are looking at this country, Nigeria, they're saying, oh, this is the person that will be right for us. If you want to go through the trajectory and through the history and see how people became presidents and leaders, you find out that these ones were the ones that anointed these ones, that decided that these ones be president.
So in other words, the current president of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, was also anointed.
Let me give you a little story about his anointing. He had fought for president 3 times.
Yeah.
And he cried on national TV and said, I'm not doing again. I'm not doing again.
Yeah.
I'm not contesting again. And it was like, it was finished for him. Had given up. And the powers that be really wanted to wrestle power from the PDP at that point because of all the issues they talked about, the PDP and their failings and all that.
Yeah.
Certain Goodluck Jonathan was regarded as a laissez-faire president. I was all very docile, no action. And they wanted someone, especially from the North, because the North had not had their chance. Goodluck Jonathan completed the last 1 year of Yar'Adua's tenure and became president. So they felt this should go back to the North. So the powers that be were like, let's get someone that will get the support of the North. And the certain Buhari they ran to him and said, come, Tinubu will always stay. I went to him. They went to him, come, we'll make you president. Let's join forces. So you could see that was that. Buhari had no money.
He said he had no money.
Yes, well,
so we can actually agree that he had no money.
When they say had no money, he may have had, he was a former leader of this country, of course.
Yeah.
He may have some money to go about his normal duties, but not enough money to delve into Nigerian politics and
You
win.
think so?
Yes. You know what our politics is? I'm talking about Nigerian politics, not just general politics. When Obasanjo became president, Obasanjo had no money. Obasanjo was a debtor. He was owing the person supplying him stuff in his farm. He was put in prison, and all his assets and everything that was accruable to him as a former president was taken away from him by the then Abacha government. Obasanjo had no money. And they went to him and said, come, let's make you president. They said, how many presidents do you want to make out of me? He said that. So eventually he became president because they wanted him to. When Yar'Adua became president, he never wanted to be. A certain Peter Odili had gone round the nooks and crannies of Nigeria, and he has been even blessed by the Sultan. But what happened? Odili was not the chosen one. So he never became president. A certain man that was judicially wildly chilling in Casino, they said, come, you become president.
So
DJ campaign.
Don't you also think that using your word, the powers that be, could also be making mistakes in projecting or presenting certain persons to come rule the nation? You remember that
they will not say it's a mistake.
No, but you remember that one of the things that was more predominant in the campaign of President Muhammadu Buhari was the fact that he promised change. And so a lot of persons in quote expected lots of positive change to happen.
True.
But when the president came on board, lots of Nigerians began to cry and said these and these were no longer working, economy is no longer working. Instead of the prices of things to come down to be more affordable, things were skyrocketing.
True.
And using your word, the powers that be went to him. The powers that be keeps going to people to come lead the nation. Now, you mentioned that most of these persons were, in quote, not even interested in the leadership position anymore. So don't you think that, in quote, these powers that be are also part of the challenges that we're having in the country? Bringing people that are not ready to even
part of the challenges. They are the problems we have in the country. Leadership has been Nigerian. The problem of Nigeria from inception has been leadership. We've always had poor leadership, very poor leadership in some cases. And these people have been brought forth to us by former leaders also. So we always had it bad. Obasanjo was one leader that wanted to hand over to someone I felt could take Nigeria to somewhere. If Obasanjo felt that at some point, because of the way he became president, he had to bow to some pressures. So at some point, he was looking at bringing, that's why Yar'Adua, in a short spell, did so much. He's one of the best leaders Nigeria ever had. Yar'Adua. He spent 2 years, I think...
2 years and a half, something.
Not almost, I think 2 years and 11 months that he spent as president. But in it, he had a lot of landmark achievements. He knew what he wanted. Only when he came to power, he said, anybody he doesn't even trust the process that he became president. Anybody that feels aggrieved should go to the courts. He said so himself. He did the amnesty thing to quell the tension in the South. So, when you see, Obasanjo had a little bit of conscience. That's why he refused to hand over to Atiku. He said God will not forgive him. God wouldn't have forgiven him if I handed over to Atiku. Atiku's file was in local parlance, we say it was played and replayed and was cracked. It was soiled with a lot of corrupt practices. So Obasanjo knew that this was not the man. Odili wanted to be president. Obasanjo knew that he had to hand over to a northerner. So what Odili was doing, Odili was wasting his time. And Obasanjo knew he was wasting his time. And Obasanjo does not even like the person of Odili because he feels that he also has some very tainted image and all that. So Obasanjo looking for someone that could help Nigeria. So he went to Yar'Adua. Yar'Adua had a Jonathan as deputy. Obasanjo didn't just bring a Yar'Adua. He didn't want anybody that would come and overpower Yar'Adua. So he didn't opt for an Odili. He didn't opt for Donald Duke. He refused to opt for, what was that other governor in Akwa Ibom State then, the one before Akpabio. He didn't opt for those guys. He wanted someone that wouldn't overpower or overshadow the president. Unfortunately, Yar'Adua died. Good Luck meant well, though, but Good Luck was sort of not in charge. And he allowed a lot of things happen under his watch, and he was not able to quell them. He wasn't like, he said to us that if I use 1/10 of the powers I have as Mr. President, you'll be shocked. Wait until I leave power and you see how people will use the power of Mr. President. Buhari is using it, and we're complaining. So Good Luck Jonathan was docile. Buhari maybe wanted to change the country, because at some point, some of us believe that maybe he would change. Remembering when he was president in the early 80s.
Yeah.
But
Head of
someone
state,
said, head of state, someone said he's no longer active. He's an old man. So that's, and I agree. A few things I did when I was much younger, I can't really pull those acts now. It's difficult to pull, not because I don't have the brains, but the energy to back up with the brain is not there. So
again,
I will retire.
And again, we still have lots of these persons who are also old. We have a Tinubu that's basically an old person. We have an Atiku that's also an old person.
75.
Tinubu
says it's 70 anyway.
So, all of these powers
that is why this thing is pointing to a younger Peter Obi. Kwankwaso is not like God chosen, the chosen one, but because people are like, because this is this, you know what people are thinking. Let's play this politics the way they want to play it. Give us a Kwankwaso with his efforts and his powers that he hasn't enough, and let's merge the Peter Obi. If that happens, I tell you, the election will be sweeter. It will be sweeter.
Also putting into consideration that based on track records, Nigerian politics as well is being played by force, ethnicity, and by religion.
Religion and ethnicity both sway in Nigerian
politics. These are the two basic foundations upon which our polity is being played. And now we have a certain, in quote, Peter, who, social media, for instance, social media has been one of the tools that he's been using to project. But do you think that Peter B stands a chance, for the 2023 presidency?
If the election holds today, Peter B will come a distant third. The election holds today. Will come distant third behind either Atiku or Tinubu. I don't know in what order. But Obi will come a distant third.
So in other words, so the whole thing still boils down to the two predominant parties?
Yes, right now, because they have the structure. But because the election is 7 months away, the structures that we say are building, one of the structures, someone did say, I've forgotten who, that if the NLC and the TUC, Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress, put their money where their mouth is and sincerely support a Peter Obi like the way they say they would, that means that structure Obi is looking for. They already have it. They have enough personnel to build structures in the entire 774 local government areas we have in Nigeria. And if that happens, that structure we're talking about is available already. You get the point? Because you have certainly a TUC member in each LGA. And by extension, in each ward, we can have a TUC and NLC member in the whole of the federation. So that will cover for the structure. So if that progresses the way it is even progressing, if it moves on just in the same way, I bet you in 5 months, the whole thing will be different. The Atiku and Tinubu camp, in fact, it's good to call it Atibu camp. They are very scared right now because Obi is progressing gradually but surely.
Let's use your word, but again, we could allege that they're actually very scared right now. But again, let's move on to the next topic rather for this afternoon. We can actually not exhaust the talk of the presidential hopefuls in the country because there's really a lot of analogy to do there. But talking about the next topic, where we have the bandits released abducted medical director, head workers, and refund 5 million ransom. You recall that the medical director of Dansadua General Hospital in Zamfara State, Dr. Mansour Mohammed Dansadua, and 2 other health workers who were abducted in Dansadua Emirate have regained their freedom from the kidnappers. Newsmen gathered that they were released on Friday night after 7 days in captivity after the sum of 5 million naira ransom was paid to the kidnappers. It was also learned that the kidnappers refunded the 5 million naira ransom a few hours after the payment. The chairman, Nigerian Medical Association in Zamfara State, Dr. Mania Bature, confirmed this to news agencies through a telephone conversation. Why the bandits refunded the 5 million naira ransom to them is still surprising to us. That's what the chairman is saying. Well, again, back to you, Mr. OK. You've seen the high rise of insecurity in our country, Nigeria. And anytime I talk about insecurity, I always go back to the very recent case that happened in Owo. And every time we talk about that, it brings a pain to our heart because we believe these are things that are not supposed to happen. And when that happened, the governors, the presidency or the federal government came out to say they are working on this and they're going to make sure that the perpetrators are being brought to book. The Abuja Kaduna, the train attack happened. So many other attacks have happened, in the country, and there are no justice is being served. to these perpetrators. And now again, recently in Zamfara, the abducted doctors were returned, monies being released. But again, what is the way out of the insecurity challenges that we have in our country, Nigeria? Or what could be the way out?
It's quite funny that, and laudable, that bandits could take ransom and return it. We marvel at how that happened, but the inside story says that there is a particular group, the farmers or herders,
the herders,
that have been able to strike a pact with the bandits and citizens of the state for peace to reign in Zamfara.
And they paid a certain fee.
Yeah, and so it was like, okay, this is not going to happen again. So when this happened, they went to the person that was to pay the ransom and caught these bandits and insisted that they refund the money. The story has it that these bandits probably didn't even know that there was this pact with them, so they apologized, released those people on hot, the doctor and 2 others on hot after 7 days in captivity, and returned the money. It sounds like a Tales by Moonlight.
Yeah.
But this is it. That means all this while, people know the bandits. People have said, you know who they are, but they are being covered, they are being backed by certain other persons. That is why it's difficult for you to capture them. Some that have been captured have been re-radicalized. People are talking about maybe training them back into the society. We've heard talks about putting them in the military, and it sounds like, what's
happening here?
These people killed people, kill them or sentence them. Why do you talk about radicalization and all that? And people will mention the amnesty in the South that happened under Yaradua and Jonathan, and said those people are still receiving money still today. People say, what about that? If you could do that, why don't you do amnesty for these ones? But people want to point out that this is a different ball game. But I feel, though, there should be some kind of liaison, a treaty, something. Because if you could picture, it means that this war thing, this fire for fire, is not working.
No, it's not.
So it means that there are other means that peace can come to us. And the Zamfara people have just showed us a way. Whether you like it or not, whether you like it or you hate the process, they have been able to strike a peace accord. And in yielding to that peace accord, people refunded 5 million.
Can that be replicated to a whole nation?
It might not replicate exact measure, but you can replicate similar measures. When you see that the fire for fire thing, the gun me down, I gun you down, the killing thing is not working. If you have watched videos of I've had some friends, military personnel, that have talked about life stories of how these people attack. They're not scared of death. They come in droves and numbers. As they're coming, they're shooting at you. They're killing them. Some of their members are stooping at that point, taking their dead and cutting it away. But at the end of the day, you cannot even say how many of them you've killed. Because except you overpower them and they run away and leave some of their dead, a lot of them have been taken back with them. You get the point? So these people are organized. These people are united. These people they have a spirit that seems like it's unbreakable. Not to forget, some people have also been joining this their camp, not just from Nigeria, from neighboring countries. Some persons have been joining via way of kidnap, and by the time you stay with them, they talk to you, brainwash you, and before you know, you're part of them. So they are still gaining more members. This fight is not close to being over. It was bad 10 years ago. It's worse now. And it's getting worse. So if there's anything that can be done, it might be a method like this that doesn't seem like a popular method. Fine and good, as long as we will have peace. You're talking about paying people that isn't too bad. How can you pay people with so much money to stop disturbing you? But when they kidnap your people, you still go pay. So why don't you pay to prevent them from kidnapping?
But again, now, if we use the same method that Zamfara has used for the entire nation, Nigeria, so we are allowing these guys to remain in our society. We are allowing them to be part of the society, buy from our market, do the same things that the everyday person does, and in return, you don't get to kidnap our own people.
It sounds like something that is very funny, But, if you look at it, if I'm your enemy, and you know I have an opportunity to kill you, and you come and meet me and say, don't kill me. Take this money and I can be trusted and I don't kill you. So you don't have to be running or be looking behind every time you run. But it seems like there's a peace pact and we can live in peace.
But do you think that peace pact, is that a permanent way? It's still scary because I already know that you're my enemy. And the only thing keeping you from attacking me, using the analogy of course that you've made, is the fact that I've given you something. And so when you exhaust that, there could always be a room for asking for more.
How did amnesty work? How did it work? Similar thing. That's how it worked. So I'm only saying that we should try other means. If the pattern of bombing them and killing them is not working, because we know we have a lot of people in captivity, and these people are being used as human shield. So they are getting more daring. If we can't fight them, we can use other means. We could use technology like which governor is doing, asking for CCTV to be installed in all. Bruno. Is it right?
That's Kano.
That's Kano. Kano's Ganduje.
I think that was Kano.
Okay.
We'll get to that. We'll clarify that.
A governor did that. Ensure that he has put it across. Put CCTVs. Let's use technology. Streets, shops, malls, everywhere. We have this camera so we can see this. We know these people. We know where they went to. We can trail them and all that. But of course, when they go into the bush, you can't trail them. But you know, funnily enough, you know why it's so annoying? People know where these people are. Exactly where they are.
And then nothing has been done.
Nothing has been done.
If normal citizens know these people, it means that the local government could know them, the state government should know them. They have been identified.
The leaders of the country know them, where they are.
So what exactly is holding them? That's been the question we're asking.
It boils down to the point of having some real big names behind this. If you see some TV shows and foreign movies, and you're wondering, how is it possible that people in government are behind terrorism? You see those movies, it gives you an idea of why they're involved. Because anything that has to do with fighting corruption, anything that has to do with fighting terrorism, brings money. Brings a lot of money, because you have to push in a lot of money. If this money is going to someone else's pockets, why wouldn't they want it to continue? Remember, human beings are greedy. If you want to think about, why would someone want to kill somebody to make money? Allow people to get hurt for them to make money. Then you think about the fact that someone will kill for ritual purpose. So it's how bad the society has become. And until we do something drastic, until we fight this thing, until we get rid of these people, until we capture these people, go after them with no fear. Remember the issue about terrorism. Dubai, the US have come out and said, we have names of Nigeria on this list that are funding terrorism. The government said, no, we'll not name them because we don't want to shame them.
And that's a serious problem.
We want to catch them. We want to investigate them. We want to put them on trial. Who hasn't put on trial?
And then this investigation still going on, keeps going on and on. But there's a lot to talk about. Okay, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we are out of time. And just like a lot of persons will say, we have lots of issues here in the country, Nigeria. It's quite inexhaustible. And we're just hoping that things get better in our country, Nigeria. But again, this is how far we can take on today's edition of the ATN's Recap. Thank you so much, wonderful guest, okay, for being on this on set with us this afternoon. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And of course, to all our esteemed viewers, thank you for staying tuned on the ATN's Recap. And of course, you can follow us on all our social media handles. Twitter is at Atlantic TV Net. Facebook and YouTube is at Atlantic Television Network. Instagram is at Atlantic TV Network. Do remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. And of course, do have a productive new week. I am Victor Ake, and thanks for watching.
It's the people making the difference in our time on ATN Icons. Here, we present you legends celebrated for their heroism in different fields and serve as role models today. ATN Icons, showing every Sunday 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Atlantic Television Network, StarTimes DTH channel 194, ATN Live on Google App Store, Facebook Atlantic Television Network, YouTube Atlantic Television Network, Instagram Atlantic TV Network, Twitter Atlantic TV Net. For sponsorship 0810 634 1777. ATN Icons, celebrating the giants of our time.
Candidates, what do you know about them? Take a seat, relax, and join us for the 2020